waking up all the time? How's the weather down there? I have heard them all. I really don't think about my size often, but many times people feel the need to remind me that I'm under 5 feet, just in case I forget. I like seeing the world from this angle. I can get through crowds more easily. I can earn special driving privileges. I can wear 5-inch heels. And when it rains, I'll be the last to get wet. But when I think of the flip side, all the amusement park rides I missed out on, those groceries on the top shelf that I couldn't reach, I just can't help but think, I want to be big. It may sound like I'm talking about wanting to be bigger in a physical sense, but that is not really the kind of big I want to be. I want to be the kind of big where I can see the bigger picture, where I can look beyond the smallness of my own wants and desires and embrace the bigness of my potential. We all have this ability inside of us, the ability to choose whether we will allow our inner bigness to shine through or whether we will ignore it and remain small. There was an individual who recently demonstrated what it truly means to be big. Victoria Soto, the 27-year-old first-grade teacher at Sandy Hook Elementary School, didn't hesitate for an instant when faced with the unimaginable terror of a gunman at her classroom door. The moment she heard the first gunshots, she instinctively looked for a way to hide her students. She pushed them into a closet, ignoring her own safety in her hurry to save their lives. Victoria, left unprotected when the door was blown open, sacrificed her life to protect the lives of her little students. Sometimes, being big means choosing what's right, no matter how difficult and painful that choice might be. It means putting someone else's needs before your own. Victoria Soto was not a superhero before this. She was just a regular person. We each have the capacity to be big in our own way, in our own lives, as she was in hers. One of my favorite classes this year was anatomy. When we were studying the digestive system, we encountered the story of Dr. Barry Marshall. For years, Dr. Marshall watched helplessly as many of his patients suffered and died from ulcers. He surmised that these ulcers were caused by bacteria in the gut called Helicobacter pylori. But other experts claimed that ulcers were caused by stress, refusing to accept any other viewpoint. Marshall realized that if he could prove the cause, the cure would be simple: antibiotics. He was unable to make his case through lab mice because the bacteria only affect primates. Obviously, he could not experiment on other human beings, so he ran the experiments on the one and only person with whom he could ethically take risks: himself. He took some H. pylori from the gut of a sick patient, mixed it with broth, and drank it. Marshall developed gastritis, the precursor to ulcers, and biopsied his own gut. To his satisfaction, the lab culture revealed H. pylori, which proved that bacteria are the underlying cause of ulcers. Marshall sacrificed himself for the greater cause. Some may call this insane, but I like to think of it as, well, big. Rabbi Akiva was one of the greatest Torah scholars of all time. After he tragically lost 24,000 of his students to untimely deaths, he gathered 5 new scholars and prepared them to carry Torah to all future generations. We are still living on the Torah that Rabbi Akiva preserved for us in this way. But Rabbi Akiva had openly proclaimed that all of his Torah and all of his students' Torah really belonged to his wife, Rachel. Rachel had seen Akiva's potential when he was still an ignorant shepherd on her father's farm. Drawn by his as-yet uncultivated spiritual greatness, Rachel married Akiva, despite her father, Kalba Savua's explicit disapproval. Her wealthy and influential father had groomed his motherless child to marry from among the greatest Torah scholars of their time. When Rachel defied him, she gave up the physical comforts that had been a constant in her life, as well as the emotional and spiritual connection to the beloved father that had raised her. She was disowned, alone, living in poverty, but dedicated to something bigger than any human being: the learning and dissemination of Torah. Much of the Torah we have today is due to Rachel's selfless sacrifice. She believed in Akiva's greatness in Torah and didn't allow anything or anyone to get in her way. I have no idea what Rachel's physical stature was like, but in my mind, she was a giant. I see that it is possible to be big, regardless of my physical size. We can be big, we are expected to be big, and bigness cannot be measured in inches. Coming from a family of little people, that is an important thing to keep in mind. The little people in my life have done many big things and have taught me to yearn for that kind of bigness. Thank you, family, and especially you, Mom and Dad, for giving me the right kind of tape measure. And thank you to all my teachers at Tamima and to Mrs. Feldman for making me realize my inner bigness. To all those people who assure me that good things come in small packages, you're right. We all start out as small, and that is the beauty of growing bigger. And to all the doctors that tell me I'm not growing anymore, I just shake my head. Because me, I'm going to be big.